A'ja Wilson's just a big bully. Look at this. Throws Lexi Hall on the ground. Everything she does is illegal. Look at this one. A moving screen and then pushes Lexi Hall. You think they ever call a foul on A'ja Wilson?
The Las Vegas Aces came out with elbows, flops, and cheap shots, but the Indiana Fever never backed down. Every shove from A'ja Wilson and every attempt at intimidation was met with speed, grit, and pure resilience. What Vegas tried to use as dominance quickly turned into desperation. And when Kelsey Mitchell drilled shot after shot, silencing the arena, it wasn't just scoring T was payback. This game wasn't only about winning, it was about exposing dirty play and flipping Vegas's arrogance back on them. And after taking the brunt of Wilson's rough play, what did Lexi Hull have to say? Drop a Fever show in the comments to back the Fever as they rise above every obstacle. Let's go.
Was supposed to be a night all about A'ja Wilson's legacy. She made history before the ball even tipped, but the game that followed reminded the Aces how tough this playoff run will be.
The Indiana Fever have pulled off the upset, the 6th seed, beating Vegas 89-73 to take game.
Hours before tip-off, all eyes in Las Vegas were on A'ja Wilson as she proudly held her MVP trophy. It was meant to be a night of celebration for the Aces' statement to the league that this was their moment, their series, their crown to defend. But by the final buzzer, that trophy presentation felt less like a triumph and more like a distraction. The shine of the occasion faded fast once the game began, because everything the Aces expected to come easy turned out to be anything but.
A'ja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish. There was a small little patch there in the third quarter. We started saying, are the Aces gonna come back? But Kelsey Mitchell and Odyssey Sims said, no, they're not going to come back. Not at all.
Coming into the game, the Aces carried the label of overwhelming favorites. The media hype painted Indiana as if they were lucky just to step on the same court. The script was written before tip-off. Vegas had the champions, the star power, the winning streak. Indiana? They were missing 6 players to injuries. Caitlin Clark sidelined. Sophie Cunningham out. Sydney Colson on the bench. And the list went on. To most experts, this matchup wasn't just lopsided, T was already decided. That arrogance seeped down to the Aces bench, where head coach Becky Hammon even reminded everyone that Indiana hadn't seen the real Aces yet. The message was loud and clear. His was supposed to be Vegas' statement game.
Actually just referenced it twice. It is Indiana. Dropped 2 of the 3 games to them this year, but you haven't seen them since late July. What excites you about that matchup?
That they haven't seen the real Aces yet. They caught us when we were at a bit in turmoil. Not only that, they whooped us one of those stretches. So, you know what? We'll buckle in, hone in where we can, and take care of business.
While Vegas soaked in all the pregame hype, the Fever were treated like an afterthought, mere footnote in the Aces championship script. Analysts spoke about Indiana as if they were nothing more than the next obstacle on Vegas's march to another title. But that suited the Fever perfectly. When no one expects you to win, there's no pressure. You play loose. You play free. And the moment the ball went up, that freedom was obvious.
The court, the Fever crashed the party. Kelsey Mitchell dropped a playoff career-high 34 points to spoil the night with an 89-73 win.
In the second half, I just felt like our physicality and our pursuit was not there. Like, we died on screens. You have to have second and third efforts. Even if you know you might be beat, you still have to try hard to get back into the play, and I don't think we tried hard in that category.
Indiana came out flying over the ball, hitting shots, dictating pace, while the Aces, for all their swagger, looked a step slow. Suddenly, the pressure wasn't on Indiana. It was on Vegas, the defending champs, now dragged into a fight they never anticipated. And arrogance has a funny way of turning into panic when the underdog refuses to fold. By the end of the night, the ignored storyline became the headline. History says 72% of teams that steal Game 1 in a best-of-5 go on to win the series. With the Aces rattled on their home floor, frustration written all over their faces, that little upset just turned the math and the narrative side down.
You better not blank on a miss, bitch. You might get ranked. Shot back. Let it go. Right. Go. What is? Fly. Somebody. Die. Gang. You don't want to fight no hitter? No. Nigga, I'ma shoot you in the face.
The moment Indiana refused to fold, everything shifted. The tone of the game changed, and so did the Aces. Sharp basketball gave way to something uglier. Almost instantly, you could see it. Agos abandoned their rhythm, their pace, their ball movement, and instead resorted to shoving, trash talk, and desperation. What began as a showcase of dominance quickly unraveled into the league's top team scrambling for shortcuts.
Hall was getting pushed all game. Look at that. Like elbowed, pushed, but guess who fell? That's an illegal screen. She leans into Lexi Hall, pushes her. Look at this. Pushes Lexi Hall down. Like, I can't take this crap. I'm sick of watching it over and over. That's a moving screen. And then pushes her again. Look at that. You can't do that. They didn't call any. This is the only one they called a foul. She straight pushed Kelsey Mitchell into A'ja Wilson.
A'ja Wilson set the tone in the worst way possible. Instead of leading with skill, she tried to impose herself physically and not in the way that wins games. She threw elbows off the ball, leaned into players after whistles, and on multiple transition plays delivered shoves that had nothing to do with defense. The flops were just as glaring, with Wilson collapsing as if hit by a truck when replays showed nothing more than routine contact. At one point, she even hooked an opponent's arm on a rebound, then tossed herself to the floor as if she'd been fouled. These antics didn't showcase dominance, revealed desperation, more about clinging for control than actually competing.
This pathetic foul to start the game off with, but ball never lies. I love when karma happens. Yeah, miss your free throw. And then here we go. Check this out. A foul. Look at this when she swings her elbows on Powers. And Powers just holding her ground, but it's a foul. Let's go through this. This is A'ja Wilson. I'm so big and bad. No, you didn't get touched. It wasn't that cool. You made a lay.
And the Aces followed her lead. Jackie Young began throwing her weight around on screens, delivering hits that looked more like football blocks than basketball cuts. Away from the ball, players were catching blind hips and shoulders disguised as physical play. The rough tactics slowed the pace, but they never rattled Indiana. If anything, the Fever embraced the chaos, miling through it and responding with even sharper execution.
Aaliyah Boston swings her elbows around and makes a shot, but no, she can't do it. She's a Fever. An Indiana Fever. She said, that's a flop. That's what Caitlin said. Here we go. A'ja Wilson. Look at her trying to flop to get a call. Nobody touch you. And this is the biggest bullcrap of the game. So Kelsey Mitchell goes in for a layup. A'ja Wilson shows them their lip, so they review it. Ever see an Indiana Fever player get a review when they're called for a foul and they zoom in with a microscope and call it technical? They called it technical on Kelsey.
Every hard foul only seemed to ignite Indiana's rotation. Rather than losing focus, Kelsey Mitchell called for the ball even more. Instead of backing down, Odyssey Sims turned up the pressure on defense. In the paint, Natasha Howard and Brianna Turner absorbed every shove with discipline, holding their ground without retaliating. What Vegas intended as intimidation became fuel, eating the fire of a roster already burning with motivation after being written off before tip-off.
Wilson, look at that foul they called for. Yeah, saved her. That's some bullcrap. I love Aaliyah Boston. Great job today playing defense. Look at that. Another foul. Bailed out by the refs. I get pissed off. This is the worst one. They call this a jump ball. How is that a jump ball? Nobody even had possession. Aaliyah Boston, that's anything is over the back. Not a jump ball.
That's the irony. Led by the newly crowned MVP, the Aces were supposed to look composed in the biggest moments. Instead, they showed nerves assorting to antics you'd expect on a playground. Every shove, every flop, Every frustrated push was an admission that Indiana's resilience had stripped away their swagger. While Vegas unraveled in frustration, the Fever stars seized the moment, turning an ugly fight into their stage to shine. Once it became clear Indiana wasn't folding, Vegas abandoned basketball for wrestling hoves in the lane, bodies crashing to the floor, flops so obvious the entire arena saw through them. It became their game plan once the scoreboard stopped leaning their way. But the Fever didn't shrink. They leaned into the chaos, fueled by the reality that 6 teammates were missing and someone had to step up. Instead of breaking them, Vegas's cheap tactics lit a fire and with every Aces misstep, Indiana's flame burned brighter.
Hey, Mitch, put him in a ditch! Who on the Las Vegas Aces is going to try to stop Kelsey Mitchell? Because from what I just saw, they had no answer for her. Kirsten Bell, line right up, smacked. Jackie Young, step right up, torched. Chelsea Gray, torched. Jewel Lloyd, torched. Nobody could hang with Kelsey Mitchell as she goes off.
Kelsey Mitchell delivered the perfect response to Vegas's antics, dropping 34 points with ruthless efficiency. No matter how physical the Aces tried to make it, she carved through their defense with ease. They could shove her after a drive, jaw at her between whistles, but none of it mattered. She just kept drilling dagger jumpers. Every bucket was a reminder. Vegas might win the scraps after the whistle, but they couldn't touch Mitchell where it counted. For all the MVP trophies and championship banners hanging in the Aces camp, not a single player matched the offensive clinic she put on that night.
I'm keeping the pivot foot alive and going strong side for Wilson.
Mitchell this time finds a lane to the basket. Inside to Turner. Nice look from Mitchell, which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple of bounces.
She wasn't alone either. Odyssey Sims looked every bit the veteran built for this moment. Her drives into the paint were fearless, her defense relentless, and her leadership steadying. Whenever the game threatened to spiral into chaos, Sims pulled Indiana back into control, alking teammates through possessions, calming the pace when Vegas wanted to speed it up, then slicing to the rim the very next trip. That balance, that refusal to answer cheap shots with more cheap shots, kept the Fever locked in and focused.
Anticipation there by Brianna Turner. She's been on a couple WNBA all defensive teams, and she has really been key for them on that end of the floor in these playoffs.
Sims, yet again.
That's a tough matchup.
Which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple in the regular season in Asia. In the entire league. And Sims, they gave her just that space and she took.
Natasha Howard and Brianna Turner battled inside with Wilson and company, but they never let the physicality knock them off their game. They held their ground, rotated with precision, and made life miserable for the Aces. It wasn't flashy defense. T was disciplined, the kind that exposes a frustrated team relying on shortcuts. And then there was Lexi Hull. She may not fill highlight reels the same way, but her defense on Jackie Young was suffocating. She forced Young to work for every look, held her in check, and finished with a plus 24 plus minus he best mark of the night. That's not luck. That's
tipped by Sims, so 9 seconds to shoot.
Hull's done a nice job on Jackie Young early in this game. Jackie likes to go north to south. She's made her play east to west, has not given her an angle to the bucket or to the rim.
And that was one of the things that was talked about to make Jackie move laterally. She's so dangerous. We gotta hurry. Chelsea gets it inside to Young. Rebound by Howard.
The Fever didn't just survive a game designed to knock them off balance. They embarrassed the Aces on their own floor by staying poised. And while that was sweet enough, the most devastating blow came when Aaliyah Boston went head-to-head with the league's MVP. On the very night Aya Wilson was celebrated with her MVP trophy, Boston flipped the script and turned her into the most frustrated player on the court. Wilson had the cameras, the crowd, and the spotlight, but when the game actually mattered, it was Boston who owned the paint. Every time Wilson tried to carve out position, Boston beat her their ODing up, forcing collisions, and making her fight for every single touch. It wasn't about stopping her once or twice. T was a possession-by-possession clinic of suffocating defense that left the unstoppable scorer searching for answers.
I want to talk about it. Yeah, her missing layup after layup after layup. They want to talk about Caitlin Clark missing a three-pointer from half court while she got people falling into her legs. But nobody wants to talk about A'ja Wilson looking like Angel Reese, missing point-blank layups all game long. In a playoff game, 6 for 20.
Wilson finished just 6 for 22 brutal line for someone crowned hours earlier as the league's best player. And it wasn't by accident. Boston, alongside Brianna Turner and Atasha Howard, executed a game plan that clogged the lane and cut off Wilson's comfort zones. Instead of easy spins and drop steps, she was met with strength and length from every angle. The Aces never found their trademark flow because Indiana's interior defense shut off the faucet. Every shot was contested, every rebound battled for, and no matter how hard Wilson tried to force her rhythm, it never came.
Paul had that great steal to seal the win against Atlanta. Great start for Aaliyah Boston.
Definitely the best slasher.
Boston and Wilson, two former South Carolina players. A'ja can't find the bottom of the net.
5'11". Odyssey Sims and Kelsey Mitchell 5'8".
Boston up, under, and in.
Really having her battle.
A'ja.
The contrast between the two stars couldn't have been sharper. Boston played with poise, sticking to the game plan and never overextending, while Wilson grew increasingly frustrated. She flopped for fouls, threw her hands at officials, and forced one contested jumper after another. Yet Las Vegas never adjusted. Coach Becky Hammon, instead of crediting Indiana's defense, brushed past the obvious in her post-game remarks, pointing to missed chances and miscues while ignoring the fact that Boston flat-out won the matchup. That lack of accountability only underscored how much control Indiana's front court had seized. In a way, there was karmic balance to it all. Wilson got her flowers in the morning, but by nightfall she was walking off her own court after being contained by a second-year center in her first playoff semifinal. The difference wasn't just physical, it was composure. Boston stayed calm, adapted when necessary, and never let the moment or the opponent dictate her approach. That steady presence became the defining gap between a team that prepared and a champion that assumed.
This of people think we aren't going to win, people think we're not going to come back. Like, the game's never over until that final buzzer. So for us, just continuing to believe, continuing to trust in the process. But yeah, that game was really exciting, and I think that just showed us that we really are capable of whatever we.
Inside the Fever locker room, the celebration carried the same energy they had shown on the floor. And when Lexi Hull-Ho had been thrown down and shoved all night, Ainali spoke. Her words echoed the team spirit. We're capable of whatever we want. That's the question heading into Game 2. Can Indiana take this same blueprint and break Vegas on their own floor again? 1 win down, 2 more to go, and history is on their side. In best-of-5 series, nearly 3 out of 4 teams that claim Game 1 go on to win the series. This wasn't just a good road win, was a seismic shift in the semifinal. The Aces entered with 8 wins in their last 9, but that momentum died the second Indiana walked into their building and stole home court.
You know, we've got to keep the main thing, and that is us playing to a standard of basketball that we want to have as an Indiana Fever organization and franchise. We've got to keep our layers. You know, the outside, the people in our building, and the people in our locker room. And the thing I'm just so proud of with this group is it doesn't matter who's on the floor, it doesn't matter who's on our roster. They give each other the freedom to be themselves. They empower one another to be themselves and to be the best version of themselves. And every time we've had a change, every time we've brought someone in, every time we've had rotational changes,
they're for each other. They live the we over the me. And when you have that, it just gives you opportunities to do really special.
Now Vegas finds itself in unfamiliar territory. They were embarrassed at home. Their MVP was shut down. Their coach admitted afterward that the Aces couldn't match Indiana's urgency. Game 2 will be about adjustments, lowering the pace, hunting Kelsey Mitchell harder, and giving Wilson easier touches near the rim. Don't be surprised if Jackie Young is glued to Mitchell to keep her from catching fire again. Indiana, meanwhile, plays with nothing to lose. Stephanie White has her stars believing. The locker room is buzzing, and even the injured players are serving as extra coaches from the bench. Game 2 isn't just about momentum tease, about proving whether the Fever truly belongs in the contender conversation. Because if Indiana steals another one in Vegas, the Aces will walk into Indianapolis facing elimination.
Feel about the performance, the urgency, and the response you had when they made a couple runs late?
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, our group has seen it all. We wanted to come in and be the aggressor right away to make sure that we were dictating on the defensive end, and we were dictating from a pace standpoint. They're champions for a reason. We knew that they were going to make runs. They made a big one in the third, and we responded with a big one. I'm proud of our team. It's one game, it's a long series, so we got to keep the main thing, but to come in here and to be able to steal this one was big for us.
The Fever didn't just steal a win in Vegas, Hay flipped the entire story. On the very night Aya Wilson was crowned MVP, Indiana humbled the defending champs and claimed their first semifinal victory in over a decade. Think about that. A shorthanded roster walked into the league's toughest arena and walked out with history. And remember, teams that take Game 1 in a best-of-5 usually go on to control the series. So, this wasn't just an upset. It could be the turning point. The only question now, and the Fever keep riding this wave? Because if they do, everything changes. Comment Fever to show your support through all the adversity, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Click the video on your screen, and we'll see you in the next one.